North Carolina lost to Virginia Tech 17-10. And it was a really tough, ugly loss. Not good. A rough game for UNC's quarterback, Sam Howell. Many people see Sam Howell as the potential number one overall pick. The way he's talked about, he's got potential. He's an NFL quarterback. A lot of people have already decided he's going to be the number one overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And what we saw last week, week one of college football, really alarmed a lot of people. They went, oh, no. He had a bad stat line. And I saw what happened, and I didn't immediately think Sam Howell was terrible. I went and saw, and I went, oh, man. This is going to be a really rough year for Sam Howell. It's going to challenge him a lot as a young quarterback. He went, in this game, he was 17 for 32 passing, for 208 yards, threw 1 touchdown, had 3 interceptions. He got sacked 6 times. And what we saw was a guy who has a bad offensive line, not much help, constant pressure was in his face all day. Receivers were dropping passes. He was making great throws that were getting dropped, back shoulder throws over the middle, all over the field, right? Receivers were dropping passes, not making plays on good throws. It was really, really hard to watch. And North Carolina's offensive line just does not look prepared to protect their quarterback, Sam Howell. He got hit immediately multiple times with a 3-man rush. What that means is that you had 5 offensive linemen blocking 3 defenders, and yet they still couldn't do it. Even with the numbers advantage, North Carolina could not win up front, and that is not Sam Howell's fault. Multiple times, I'm like, man, I would give you a coaching point, like, hey, find your check down or find your hot read, but when your offensive line just gets beat over and over and over again, and you, despite having the numbers advantage, still lose, there's not much you can do. You have to change the way you play quarterback. He had a bad interception at the end of the game. There was a moment where UNC had the ball with like 3 minutes left, down 7, a shot to tie the game, and Sam Howell had a really bad unforced error on 2nd down where he was hit as he threw. He tried to force it downfield rather than take the sack, and my fiance called it an ego throw. You're probably kind of right there. It's just an unforced error. He's got to throw the ball away rather than, why even get hit? Throw the ball away before you're hit. Stop trying to fight. Live to see another day. It's only 2nd down. But Sam Howell, from my memory, I believe it was 2nd down. He converted, like he tried to convert a 3rd down. Then he converted a 4th down. Like he kept converting over and over again. And this was just kind of a throwaway play, actually. It wasn't a key down. He had more downs to live with. I remember that. And he should have thrown the ball away. So here's a lesson from UNC versus Virginia Tech. This is going to be a really tough year for Sam Howell, and it's going to be very, very good for him. It's going to help prepare him for the NFL, where if you're a top 5 pick, by the way, let's say he goes to the Detroit Lions next year, or I'm trying to think of who might need a quarterback, right? Usually if you're a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, you go to a terrible football team. There's a reason they have a top 5 pick. They have a bad offensive line. They have no receivers. You have no help. And so Sam Howell is going to be dealing with problems this year. He's probably, I would assume, this is his 3rd year starting at UNC. Probably the worst team he's ever had around him. Where in high school, I would imagine, had a great offensive line, playing against weaker competition, dominating, no problem. This will be the first time where he's going to deal with a bad offensive line, getting hit constantly, playing in a messy pocket, having receivers who, look, you got to throw the ball to a great location, because if you don't make a perfect throw every time, they're going to drop it, and they're not very talented. And you got to get the ball out of your hands very quickly. If they give you a completion, take it. Take the check down. Take the easy throw. Just live to see another. He's going to have to learn how to play quarterback a completely different way. And there was a couple plays where I'm like, hey, Sam, no one's open. Throw to your check down. Stop extending a play. Stop running around behind the line of scrimmage. Like, these are lessons Sam Howell clearly needs to learn based on the Virginia Tech game. And so if Sam Howell wants to even compete, let alone move the ball this year, he's going to have to develop some NFL habits immediately, which that's good for him. He might as well learn those lessons now rather than next year in the NFL. And learning how to do well despite being under pressure constantly, getting hit every play, knowing that you got to get the ball out of your hands really, really quickly, that's not necessarily bad. And so this fall, North Carolina, they're a bad football team, especially on offense. They've got a bad offensive line. Their receiving core is going to struggle. But it also, the uncomfortableness of it, right? The limitation Sam Howell is going to face is going to make him into a better NFL quarterback in the long run. Like, Drew Brees went to Purdue. Drew Brees did not go to Alabama. There's a reason for years most NFL quarterbacks that succeeded in the NFL didn't actually go to the best college football programs, because guys who went to Purdue like Drew Brees had to learn NFL habits earlier. And the NFL's changing. We're seeing guys like Tua do well and Mac Jones do well, but usually, as a rule of thumb, if you play, like Matt Ryan played at Boston College, and Matt Ryan came into the NFL ready to go because he had limitations around him in college. He had to learn to win a different way. So my point is that this is good for Sam Howell. The struggle, the pain, the hits his body's going to take, the drops, all the struggle he's going to deal with this year is going to force him to grow as a quarterback, and the process is going to make him better when he eventually goes to the NFL.